respects voters. And we have enough voting power to change anything that needs to be changed.
Politics, progress, game boards, objects, viewed like pawns till we change up our mindset. Value of the dollars at the center of this conflict, where lives only matter if they serve to make a profit. But if a midget sees further on the shoulders of a giant, then we should see further than the tyrant. Build a future within the alliance with successes. Our science in the quest to go higher. Stay hard in the city.
Wake up, world. Welcome to another great episode of Heart City TV. I'm your host, Malik Boyd. I hope that wherever you are, you're in good spirits and all is truly well. The show today is just another continuation of Vision 2020, our series on the November election to make sure that you, the voter, have all the right information that you need to make an informed decision about the election, about the candidates, about all of those individuals who work for you. You are the shareholder in the largest corporation in the world, that is the United States of America. And you need all the information to make sure that the right people are in place. You'll hear from the DNC once again, and they will talk more about the platform. We'll talk about Ice Cube. We'll talk about 50 Cent and so much more. Stay tuned. But we always start the show off in prayer. I'm excited to have this powerhouse back with us in the building, none other than Lady Selena Barker. She is from the Refuge Community Church in Coolamy, North Carolina. Welcome back home, Lady Barker. Great to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I hope all is well.
All is well. As the seasoned saints say, we're on this side of the grave. That's half the battle.
Amen. That's it.
Yeah. So you know the issues. You know what's going on, whether it be national, state, or local. Mm-hmm. The calling on your life has you reflecting and making an impact in all of those places. Some of the stuff that makes the news, but much of it that does not. And so I'm going to ask you, with all that you know, with all that you've experienced, to lead us into our 2-minute prayer for the city.
I sure will. I sure will. To God be the glory. Amen. If you're ready,
we're ready.
Father, we come before you this afternoon, God. We thanking you and praising you for who you are. God, for your long suffering and your patience towards your children. God, we ask that you would come into the midst of this situation that we're having right now, as they call it the voting season. And God, we praying, God, that you would have your way throughout all, Lord. You are in complete control. We are at your begging mercy, God, that you would come in and tender the hearts of the hardened hearts of men and women, God, that have set themselves up to vote white, vote black, vote Hispanic instead of voting right. And God, we praying, God, that you will come in the midst of this opportunity that we have, God, to assert our rights. And God, we praying, God, for someone to be saved by your marvelous grace, God, that hearts will be tender towards other men and women. And we praying, God, for this radio broadcast, Brother Malik, and we praying, God, for all that's involved all over this land and country, God, that are seeing this right now as we speak. And we praying, God, that you would go into the White House, to the courthouse, to the schoolhouses, God, as this pandemic has had its way all throughout this land and country and this world. We praying, God, that you would just touch us with your mighty hand. And God, give the men and women the voice to speak up when it's time to speak up, and the voice to stand down when it's time to stand down. And God, we praise you for everything you're going to do. We praying, God, for our children that are suffering, God, during this pandemic. God, we praying, God, for just so many different attitudes and people upset with each other. We praying, God, for peace and calm to come in. Nevertheless, God, your will shall be done. God, you said these things were going to come in the latter days. And God, we do realize we're in the latter days, God, but help us to stand fast and see your salvation, God, as we move forward in this time. And God, we praying for everybody under the sound of my voice, God, that you will just please just comfort us each and every one of us, God, as death is running rampant through our land and country. We praise you, God, for what you're going to do during this session, God. We thank you for everything. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Lady Barker, thank you so much for covering us in prayer. For those who were listening to the prayer, when Lady Barker said, we're praying for the attitudes.
Mhm.
I'll translate that for the new members, the folk that are in new members classes. What she was saying was people are tripping out here in heart, need to be changed because they need some act right in their lives. Lady Barker, talk about what's happening in Coolamy, North Carolina. Many folk believe that if you're in a big city, that the big city has all these unique issues and no one else understands, but truly, there are issues in the main street in Philadelphia, in New York, and Detroit, just like it is right in Coolamy. So talk about what you're seeing in the landscape, the heart of the people there, and where they are in this election season.
Well, I live in a small town, so everybody knows everybody, and everybody pretty much knows about where everyone stands.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of Trump and Pence signs all throughout Coolamy. And the rebel flags flying on the trucks. You have, tobacco chewers, and then you have holy rollers over here. But all in all, I'm gonna honestly say that we're not having the major problems that some of our bigger cities are having. And that's because prayer changes things. I believe that wherever we trod and put our feet, God said we'll have that. So we are covering Coolamy with the grace of God and with the blood of Jesus. So that won't come nigh us, Psalm 91. But we still have that undercurrent of racism in Coolamy. I mean, there's a cemetery that black folks dare not attempt to get buried in, and in the place where I grew up in is called Smoky Hollow. So we still have that, and it's called Smoky for a reason. It's called
Wow.
Smoky for a reason. But we still have that, and we still have division. And I grew up with it, not realizing it was division at the time. But right now, during this time of the election,
Mm-hmm.
you can see that folks are on edge. They're kind
Yeah.
of edgy, like we don't want to mess with you. We don't want to say the wrong thing. Thank God we haven't ran up on any Karens out here, or
That's a blessing. No Karens can
kill us.
Coolamy.
Yeah, but overall, we are by the grace of God, we are in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say that. To God be the glory.
So let's get a feel for the focus around entrepreneurship, economic strength of our people. Where are we in North Carolina? Are we focused on? I mean, because let's be honest, it's only been 50 plus years since the Pettus Bridge. And many will say the batons are still out. Many will say that the guns have gone off even more since the Pettus Bridge. And so neither side has taken good care of Black people. We've just got to be honest about it and shoot straight. And so where's our economic focus in Coolamy? Has the community come together to really focus on that kind of impact?
I'm gonna say no, it has not.
Okay.
And we still, it's still that same mentality. Every man for himself around here. Um,
Wow.
uh, a lot of the Black people, your church is your church, and my church is my church. We have a multicultural church, and we are just a different kind of set, and we're right in the middle of Coolamy. So they figure us to be that place in the center that anybody can come and find what they need at Refuge Community Church. And that's not tooting my own horn. That's just what God has anointed us to be, a beacon. They call us a beacon, and they don't realize it's God. It's the
Yeah.
God. But as far as the entrepreneur, you can have, as Black folks, we have a problem with supporting the Black people in our
Come
community.
on.
We had a young sister that had she wanted to do a hair store. No
Mm-hmm.
one would support her. They'd go all the way to the nearest town as opposed to supporting this sister. And recently we doing some renovation in our church, and we had so many offers to come in and paint, and I was over that. And we had a black gentleman to come, and I talked to him, and I said, "We want to support you, brother," you know.
Yeah.
And come to find out, he knew everybody I knew. He went to school with my brother, went to school with my husband, so it all worked out, and he's saved by the grace of God too. Not only want to support our black ministers, members, but we also want to support the house of God too. So our brothers and sisters in the Lord. Okay. So as far as entrepreneur, we still got that crab mentality happening.
Okay.
And it's cool to me as well.
So, it's clear that there's still work to be done in the community, but I implore everybody to understand it's not a unique situation to your neighborhood, to your street, to your block, to your organization. Across the board, we have a mindset change and shift that needs to happen. We can't expect the political powers to bow down to an agenda, whether it's the Contract for Black America, whether it's Lift Every Voice. No matter what name you put on it, they won't bow down to it unless you have consequence.
That's right.
Because power does not concede just to demand. It concedes to demand with consequence. And that consequence is being able to remove your dollar.
That's right.
Out of their economic system to create impact that makes sense. Now, songs tell the story of old. Songs got us through some of the many challenges of our life, and still to this day evoke emotions that lead us to impact and change. A little birdie told me that somebody named Lady B just dropped a single that the world needs to hear. Talk about the single and how the broadcast audience can support.
Okay, so the name of the song is the name of the single, Shout Right Here, is also another single on their Count on Him. The song was birthed out of some heartache and some pain that I was going through at the time about 6 years ago. And I actually gave it to me in the shower. And I got out, praise God, splashing water everywhere. But the song is called Shout Right Here. When you can't do anything else, and when it seems like everything else is falling down, God spoke to me that morning. He said, you can't do a thing about it. You might as well just praise me. So I was worried about people talking about me, things happening, and just everything going on. But he said, you can't do a thing about it. He said, just praise me. So I started praising him, and he fixed that thing. He fixed it. He fixed it. So I started shouting right there, and I wrote that song that morning.
So, broadcast audience, you too can have a spread some water all over the place experience and shout right where you are. Lady Selena Barker, it's always good to see you. I'm so glad that you covered the listener audience in prayer. Tell the listener audience how they can worship and fellowship with you in Refuge.
Okay, Refuge Community Church is in Coolamy, North Carolina, 137 Marginal Street. We are also doing Facebook Live now due to the pandemic. We're having church outside. You can catch us at Refuge of Coolamy on Facebook, and you can contact me, Selena Barker, on Facebook, or you can get with me on at I am Selena Barker on Instagram, or you can get me at Selena Barker on Twitter. And then I can hook you up with wherever you need to go as far as Refuge Community Church, because I am the first lady. Listen, somebody told me I'm the only lady right now.
There you go. There you go. Lady Selena Barker, we love you. We appreciate you. We honor you for what God is doing in your life and in the life of the ministry. Please give our love to the family over at Refuge.
We will. And thank you so much for having me. I know I'm just a big old country girl that God saw fit to save.
We love it. And we're going to come by and see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right. We have now been covered in prayer. Lady Selena Barker made it clear that there's some moments where you can shout right here and shout your way through. I want you to understand faith does lead us over here at Heart City, but faith without works is dead. We're about to grind as well. It's not just enough to get on your knees. It's what happens when you get up that makes the difference as well. And so I'm going to a break. On the other side, oh boy, Naima Wilson is on the other side. We're going to have a ball on these EKGs. You know how Na gets down on the EKGs. Stay tuned. You're watching Heart of the City. We'll be right back.
The Philadelphia Opportunities Industrialization Center is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide education, training, and employment services to assist the unemployed, underemployed, homeless, and disadvantaged youth and adults. Visit philaoic.org to learn how OIC can help you achieve self-sufficiency and empowerment through education, training, job placement, and through technology access and economic development. For a better tomorrow, call Philadelphia OIC.
We're back. You're watching Heart City TV. This next juggernaut superstar, the list goes on. She is absolutely amazing. Naima Wilson, welcome back to Heart City. It's so great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I know it's been a while, so I'm just excited to have this conversation with you and the people. Seriously.
Look, the people are going to be made all the better for it. Let's get right into our EKG.
This is the EKG, the part of the show where we place America front and center on the monitors of the American people. We will look for irregularities in the heartbeat, offer solutions on the issues we find in order to make America healthy once again. So fire up the machine. Let's start the EKG.
This week's EKGs are brought to you by Deshuri CBD products. Make sure you check them out at mydeshuri.com. Our first story, listen, rappers are tripping out here in the space. The feds arrest a rapper who bragged in his music video about getting rich off of the PPP money on the street. Fontrell Antonio Baines, 31. He was arrested on 3 felony counts of access device fraud, aggravated identity theft, and interstate transportation of stolen property. Now, Baines is known as Nuke Bizzle for shizzle. My dizzle. About to spend 30 yizzles in jizzle for 22 years. 22 years he's facing in federal prison. And basically his co-conspirators said that they took at least 92 debit cards preloaded with 1.2 million. Now, for all the saved and sanctified folk who didn't know what I said when I used all the bizzles, what I basically, let me get it down in seasoned Heart City way. What I said was he was apprehended by the authorities and brought up on charges of fraudulent actions, which therefore may lead him into the legal process of which he will probably not be removed from and will join the population upstate. Okay. What in the world is going on?
You know what? I have no idea. And it's funny because I think it was last month I did a live, right? Because I noticed that there are so many vehicles out right now with temporary registrations and guys are just driving fast and reckless. And I'm seeing like a slew of new cars. And it's like, what's going on? Like, what's the trend? And unfortunately, a lot of people have gotten involved in the PUA fund. You know? But on the flip side of that, you know, because I've witnessed there are a lot of elderly people who have also been victims of all kind of fraud and identity theft based on the same situation. So we got to be real vigilant, you know, and ensuring that we're not participating and get that money for shizzle, because I don't want to go to jail with people.
Listen, orange is not a part of my wardrobe ministry at all. So please, listening audience, tell your favorite local rapper. If you're playing with that PUA money, you're playing with that PPP money, first off, don't do it. But if by chance they are, make sure you're not in that video. But then also make sure that they are not posting videos bragging about PUA money and its abuse. We're going to make sure that we post that article, not to take issue with the individual, we already do, but so that you can share it with those you love and make sure that they do not do the same. Now, this one here, Diddy reveals the launch of the Black political party called Our Black Party. This is reported by Complex and others. Now, I mean, I'm confused because they were just trashing Q for having conversation. And he wasn't tied to anybody. He just said, look, I have a contract of some agenda items that I want to bring to the table. But the problem is either you can handle it or not.
Absolutely.
Diddy said, well, I'm just going to start a whole party. I'm going to go Black Tea Party then. From my opinion, starting a party is a lot harder and a lot less powerful at this point than addressing the ones that are already entrenched and in power. Unfortunately, we do not donate enough to make a party make sense. I understand people love the Tea Party, but the Tea Party put up a whole lot of money.
Absolutely.
To make sure they got the job done. Do you think we could ever really do the same at this moment in time?
I actually think now is the time. You know,
okay.
I think that a lot of my comrades are understanding that this is the age of accountability, and that we really are going to be holding our politicians accountable, to what it is that they say they're going to do on the campaign trail and what it is that they produce, when they win these elections. So I also think that we are beginning to understand the real importance of the Black dollar. So in addition to voting, and demonstrating, like, let's put our power behind, our money. So I definitely think that we're getting it, and this is our time. So yeah, I have faith in us. I don't know, brother. I have faith in us.
Listen, I have faith in us too. I just want to make sure that just as many chicken wings that we get with the shrimp fried rice, that we're also able to donate to a Black business. I'm like, come on, guys. It's one thing to step on the leader who steps out, because that's what we do. We have this penchant for doing that. But we recognize also, or hopefully we are recognizing, that they're powerless.
Absolutely.
When we don't put our Black dollar, to your point, behind them. Absolutely. And let people know, you don't do what they said, there's going to be consequence, right?
I applaud you. Yep, I absolutely do. And I think that what he did was by far the definition of a bipartisan effort.
Yeah, he did. He did. And we'll talk about that later on as well. This one here really has bothered me just watching this. And this is part of why many folk were talking about making sure our kids get back in school. A man was charged with sexually assaulting a 7-year-old girl as classmates and teachers watched in horror. This happened in Cook County. A South Side man, he assaulted his 7-year-old cousin. He is 18 years old, Cottrell Walls. He's facing a felony charge of predatory criminal sexual assault. As this video was caught, and viewed by many in a West Chesterfield neighborhood home during the break in this child's studies. I mean, many kids, and I don't think folk are understanding what's happening here. Children who are left at home have to deal with what's happening at home. Many of these children, they can't wait to get to school to get away from what's happening at home. Some will argue that Zoom potentially does allow us to see into the home and get a little bit more exposure that a TSS MT worker would typically have, but we're not able to because of COVID and some of these other things. But nonetheless, it's tragic to see these kind of stories occur. Is there anything that Yeah, I mean, this is a space that you are an expert in. You've dealt in the social services for many years. What can we do as parents to kind of at least begin to have conversations with our children if we have to leave them home
Right.
or leave them in the care of others in the middle of school? What are some of the dialogues that we can have so that we can begin to uncover things that we need to know?
Yeah, I think you said it. Just begin the dialogue. Just from being in the field, and also being a victim, I know the importance of just having the conversation.
Yeah.
So the professional in me, even for the perpetrator, is like, what happened to him?
Hmm.
You know, that will cause him at 18 or 17 or whatever years old to do this to a 7-year-old. And it's happening so often.
Yeah.
And the safe haven that once was school is no longer available to our children. So I would implore, our parents to have those conversations and talk to your child, and not just ask them what happened, but did they feel safe in the space? Because sometimes it's not what, you have to ask the important questions, not necessarily did someone touch you, but did someone make you feel unsafe? So having those very challenging conversations with our children, we have to begin having more often. And then we also have responsibility to get our
Mhm.
kids back to some normalcy,
Absolutely.
because they're experiencing so much, and it's hard for social workers to even get them.
Yeah. Please, parents, by all means, have conversation with your children. Right now, the dinner table is absolutely crucial. Having one-on-one time with your child is absolutely crucial. Do not let them just sit in a room. Do not just let them, kind of close themselves off from what's happening in your space. Go in that room.
Yeah.
Have some dialogue. I mean,
Yeah.
look around. You want to know. Bust in on a class. You ain't got to embarrass them with your PJs and the curlers in the hair and, brothers with the beard looking all crazy. You ain't got to do that. But it's important that you know what's happening on a day-to-day basis, especially now. Our last story, Cube, Ice Cube. Some say he is melted because he played with fire. With the Trump administration, Politico reported how Cube joined forces with Donald Trump. Now, here's something that I want people to understand. Okay. These media outlets played a game
Right.
with you. I want you to understand that they purposely designed this to attack Cube from having a dialogue with both sides. They did not want the African-American community to dialogue with both sides because that means you're in negotiation. Look at the title. This is Politico, the inside story. Now they're trying to act as if they have inside baseball on a secret deal. That is methodical in what they did. They also used the term joined forces, even though Cube made it clear that he did not join forces with any party. In fact, he presented it to both and wanted to make sure that we had communication with both. That is not only a leading headline, it is an absolute lie. They also use unlikely partnership that was psychologically placed there to make you feel that it was above and beyond and some kind of secretive deal that occurred. Here's some interesting pieces of that article. Look at what it says. Not only did he wind up in a room, which suggests that he didn't deserve to be in a room. Cube didn't wander in a room, okay? And then less than 2 months before the election is to make you think that he's doing this just for election purposes when Cube has been doing this for months. In fact, years, if you're following Cube. And then they said, then locked arms with Donald Trump when not only did he say, I never met Donald Trump, never had a conversation with Donald Trump, just his team, but then he also made it clear, I did not agree to support any of these parties. In fact, I don't like either one of these. And then look at this. Late last month, the iconic rapper quietly slipped into Washington, D.C. Now they're acting as if, they're writing fairy tales up here. And it's not just Politico.
No, it's not.
Many of these news outlets literally crafted this narrative to force African Americans to now attack a leader, as opposed to saying, look, the contract for Black America made sense to us from the beginning. I don't care whose table it's in front of. Can we get it done? Either way.
Absolutely. We have to begin to think for ourselves, and I think that, again, that's what Cube has been doing, like you said, from the beginning. I know that I began seeing about his conversation since maybe like February or March. So to even think that this is something new, if you're misinformed or you're only paying attention to the media and you're not doing your own research, this is when we have all of this mass hysteria and cut culture, cancel culture, in Black America, when what's really going on is a brother saying, let's have a real deliberate dialogue about how we can really move the Black agenda forward. And again, I applaud him for that effort.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that Black America stops eating, we eat our young.
We do.
We beat down our strong. We do. And then we blame both of them for leaving the rest of us unattended and unprotected. It's crazy. We've got to understand you can be in the boardroom just like you can be on the block. Mm-hmm. Doesn't take away from Cube's street cred to have a conversation. Cube did not sell out African Americans. What he simply said was the issues need to be on every table. Naima understands that equally as well. So do you. So please stop attacking Cube and everyone else. That's part of the game that the media wanted you to do. They single-handedly crafted this to damage our ability to go to both tables.
Yeah.
So let them play that game with us. Nye, you are amazing. I need the world to know it. We love you. We appreciate you. And it's always good to spend time with you breaking down the issues of the day.
I'm always doing so much. So when I can have an opportunity to talk to you, it's always a pleasure. Much love to you. I appreciate what you're doing for the community.
No doubt.
We need you. So anything I can do for you, please let me know.
Will do. Thanks again for joining us. So you heard from Naima Wilson, my favorite EKG guest. She breaks it down. I appreciate all that she does and the countless others who constantly give us the wisdom perspective that is needed so that we can make the informed decisions. Let's not let the media play these games with us. I'm going to a break. On the other side, Michael Blake and Ashley Allison from the DNC. They'll also break down the issues of the day. Take out your stethoscope. You're watching Heart City TV.
On November 3rd, 86 out of 99 state legislative chambers are holding elections.
There are 70 million young eligible voters, the largest and most diverse generation in our country's history.
We have the power to shape our country and communities,
but we need all of us.
So picture this.
On November 3rd, we choose.
We choose who sits in 435 seats in the House of Representatives.
We choose 24 senators and 13 governors.
We choose the sheriffs, the DAs, and the judges too.
With 70 million young eligible voters, we choose to align a vision too humane to be political.
And make the future prouder than it's ever been.
So when the alarm goes off on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, and you arrive at your polling site, to see freedom clocking 2-hour waits.
Vote anyway. When the machines stop working and your job starts
calling
because American democracy is running late again,
vote anyway. Your vote is bigger than the color of your state.
It is a revolutionary
The moment you took to the streets and to the screens to share your outrage.
You recommitted to our collective dream, which requires
that you lift it out of hashtags and into DC and your communities.
Because remember, this is the same year that brought a pandemic which disproportionately killed Black and brown Americans and indigenous people.
The same 2020 that took the breath of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Nina Pop, and Dominique Fells.
So on November 3rd, 2020,
know that voter suppression will be present.
Vote anyway.
You will be discouraged.
Vote anyway.
Tuesday will be imperfect.
Vote anyway.
When every headline is shouting democracy and swing states,
you will be asked to believe in a dream that never came to fruition for every American. And despite your best reason, you must uphold it. Because we can't vote a world into existence that we can't first imagine.
The American dream is ours for the making.
Come alive for ancestors who need you to finish their story.
A story that begs for atonement.
Cast your promise.
Cast your vote.
But vote.
We are back. I'm so excited once again to continue to have this conversation around Vision 2020. The election is so crucial for all of us, but definitely for Black America. It's time for us to make some decisions. It's time for us to do business and not get the business. In order for you not to get the business, you know what I'm talking about, we're going to have to figure out what is truth, what is fiction. We're going to skip the rumor mills, and our job was to bring you to the table for the folk that have spun in the media, have spun on social media, all of the Facebook PhDs. We want to get you out of that circle and get you into the truth circle for the second time. I'm excited to have this brother, the vice chair of the DNC, none other than Michael Blake. It's great to have you back with us on Heart City. Welcome back home, brother.
Appreciate you. You know, I had to come correct. And, you know, I had to throw on my alpha gear, so folks can understand. Yeah, if we're gonna close this campaign right, I got to get my Black Greek love going too.
There you go. So we have much to talk about. I mean, the first week we start off just talking about the brass tacks of the Biden campaign, what folk can expect from Senator Kamala Harris and from Vice President Biden if they are elected November 3rd. Literally, in 7 days, we have seen everything from a dialogue with Ice Cube and a platinum plan going awry, right? With the contract for Black America, which is what Cube presented. And what was said was, quite frankly, I presented this plan months ago to both parties. The DNC said, hey, we like 85% of it, but we're going to chill to after the election. The RNC and the Trump administration apparently said, as it was reported, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about the plan, and let's embed this plan into our platinum plan. Obviously, one of the only components that was brought into the plan from the contract for Black America was $500 billion to Black Americans, which we are all finding out leaves much to be desired because it is not directed to Black Americans as was originally proposed. And so, Mike, let's separate fact from fiction. Did the DNC stiff arm Ice Cube in the contract for Black America?
Yeah. So let's first set the record straight on a few things if we can.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand how this Trump plan, which is 2 pages long, could somehow give you a description on how all this money would go out to Black folk, when we have a racial equity plan and a Lift Every Voice plan that's 22 pages that gives you the actual stats and figures. So first, I understand and appreciate the point being made by Ice Cube of how long Black folk have been waiting for resources to come to our communities, and how a stimulus package happened earlier this year that should have led to more money directly to our communities. I received that. I respect that. I also, though, want to be clear. Ice Cube has interacted with our leadership, especially on the policy team. We've had direct communication. We've directly also conveyed how our plan is real versus Trump's. And what I'm asking everyone, when Trump and the Republicans are telling you to trust them, they asked you 4 years ago, what do you have to lose? And the very simple answer is our lives, our businesses, our money, our schools. So let's talk about what's actually happening here. What is our plan? The racial equity plan from our next president, Joe Biden, our next vice president, Kamala Harris, and happy birthday to Kamala as well. Let's think about how half of the funds for small businesses in the next small business program would go to businesses 50 employees or less. Now, why does that matter? Because at the end of the day, we knew a lot of our Black businesses were the micro businesses, smaller ones who did not get access to the capital earlier this year. Elevating the Minority Business Development Agency from a national director to assistant secretary, and having responsibility so that every agency has to articulate how they will get money into the hands of Black and brown folk on the ground. CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, MDIs, Minority Depository Institutions, making those having anywhere between $30 to $50 billion. What would happen then? That would lend to lending to our businesses on the ground. And we talk about all of that. This is around the broader vision of equity. Everything around student loan forgiveness so that you can go to school, graduate from school, and not be saddled with debt, while also addressing what's happening in our communities on the ground. And lastly, Malik, all this is intertwined because you can't separate what's bringing us to this moment. Why are we having a massive COVID relief and these stimulus bills? Because of COVID and because of the absolute disastrous response from Trump and Pence. And so we can't separate the health and the wellness of our communities from the economics of this. This is how I make it real plain. Should you trust a con man in Donald Trump, a man who has a history of playing black folk, a man who, while still within the incubation period of COVID, had a rally at the White House for Blexit, where they paid for black folk to show up on the lawn? I would rather trust a real leader in Joe Biden as opposed to a con man in Donald Trump.
Listen, you're hitting hard, brother. We talked about this before. You know, politics is like Monday Night Football. It's full contact sport, especially for Black America. We cannot afford to have soft conversation or soft action. It has to be deliberate, it has to be intentional, and it has to be impactful for our people. Black businesses have suffered. 50% of Black businesses, according to Forbes, are not returning as a result of COVID. When we talk about PPP, and you mentioned that, quite frankly, Black businesses were left out of the mix. Small businesses were told by their banks, hey, look, apply. You will get this money. We will keep this lifeline alive. We applied, and I'll speak from personal experience, even despite having significant transactions through a bank and a great relationship with the bank, they still said, hey, we're working on it. Stay tuned. Stay focused. And then you get the rejection letter, or then you get a diminished amount because they said, well, the first round is already depleted. And so Black businesses, Black business owners, Black community leaders are going, we're resource choked, quite frankly. We have nothing left in the storehouse to give to our people. Are the assurances there? To your point, are the assurances there that Black communities will have access to the resources to begin their return back to excellence?
Absolutely. And I think, I often say, let's be clear, the system intentionally did this year. When they wrote the COVID bill, the implementations of the regulation of it, when you didn't have an opportunity for barbershops, beauty salons, restaurants, so many of our entities that are the cash economy to even get in the game, you immediately block them out. If this was a first come, first serve approach, where you're just talking through Malik right now, where so many times it wasn't because of your qualifications, but because of who you knew and how quickly they could make a phone call, that is absolutely not the kind of language or policies that we should want ever for our people.
Absolutely.
Versus when we talk about Joe Biden, this is what comes to mind for me. This was the man who was assigned to lead the Recovery Act. This is the man who had to go up to Capitol Hill and get the final votes on the Affordable Care Act. If there's anyone I want to rock with on turning my economy around and getting us out of a healthcare disaster, it's Joe Biden. And then lastly, we're giving you real specifics on what we would do in a Biden-Harris administration. When we talk through CDFIs for access to capital, we talk about what's happening around procurement and great opportunities there. We talk about MBDA having that responsibility of holding people accountable. We talk about the counseling and the language that has to happen. We give you very clear metrics. How do we ensure, again, businesses 50 employees below get half of the small business relief? That's a very clear metric to hold people accountable. And as the person who was the co-lead on the effort for the federal government to have increased procurement for minority women-owned businesses, which I did in the Obama-Biden administration, I'm telling you, Black folk, I would not be here in Heart City. I would not be having these conversations. I would not be crisscrossing the country. I would not be spending all this time on Zoom and different conversations if I did not believe in this man. And when I think about what has been happening in my hometown of the Bronx, New York, where Black and brown businesses are being devastated because of what has happened from the Trump-Pence agenda. I refuse to do anything but give my all to make sure Joe Biden is not our next president, because our folks will only have a chance if we don't, unless we get federal government relief. And he's the one I believe that will do it. And he's the one that's laying out the plan. And he is the one that I trust will do it correctly. Again, I refuse to trust a con man in Donald Trump.
Listen, you made it clear last week and even more crystal clear this week where you stand and why. And I think the facts matter. And bringing the facts to digestible, bite-sized pieces is really important as we get into the final stretch of this election. Now, we've seen our share of celebrities get involved in the political fray. Ice Cube is one. Diddy said, look, I'm going to start the Black Party, which I'm still confused on, because I'm just like, just leverage your dollars in the parties that exist. But I understand the effort, because there's frustration amongst not just the celebrities, but amongst the people for action. And now comes 50 Cent. 50 just posted a representation of a graphic that was broadcast on mainstream media in reference to the Biden plan. It referred to New Yorkers having a astronomical tax rate for those who are 400,000 and above. And we have to talk very clearly about the economics of our Black people that are doing well or above what we call middle class income. Those individuals that are in that same tax bracket that are not celebrities, but are businessmen, they are business women, they are job creators in our community. Are those numbers real, first and foremost? And if they're not real, what can we expect from the Biden-Harris tax plan for Black America?
So I'm going to be very clear and straight up with people, unlike, again, the comment on the other side with $421 million of debt that he still won't release his taxes on about that. If you are making more than $400,000, yes, we do expect that you will pay your fair share so that we can help turn our economy around. And will that mean that you might have to pay a little bit more in that tax bracket? Yes, that is a very direct yes. But it's also about being responsible. Because at the end of the day, how can you say you want Black folks to get access to stimulus unless you have tax revenue to help with it?
Right.
Like, I'm always amazed on how we want to separate these conversations. You say you want better roads, you want better schools, you want better infrastructure, you want more support for our Black and brown businesses. You want all these different things. However, don't touch tax rates.
Right.
Now, most people around the country are not going to be impacted at all, because most people are not in that space. But for those that are doing well and have the blessings of that, we're just saying we just need to help our country. And so the clear distinction has to be, moving forward, how on earth do you think we'll get out of this mess and go beyond? Nobody's been very clear. It's about build back better. He's been saying that from day one. This is not just us getting to where we have to be. Again, he started this campaign saying we got to fight for the soul of the nation, seeing what happened in Charlottesville, all the destruction that's been going on. And obviously things have become much worse economically, socially, etc. The only chance we have to make progress is by doing that for those that are over $400,000. Now, this is a broader conversation about what we have to have around fairness in our tax rates and the changing our tax plans, etc. Which is why, again, I would rather have a Joe Biden win and have a Treasury Secretary that he appoints that actually is mindful of our communities. I would like to see how do we utilize these resources so it goes to a community development financial institution and MDIs and others, so it helps us on the ground. And equally, I do think there has to be a selflessness conversation. If we're saying, yeah, if you're over $400,000, let's just make sure we're processing this conversation. If you're making more than $400,000 to pay a little bit more so that all of us can survive and thrive and do better. The alternative is what? Not doing that. And then what? So I would say for all the brothers and sisters that are listening to your music, rock with you on the radio, buying your gear, who not making that $400,000, Let's help them instead of just being consumers, help them to become creators.
Mm-hmm. And what's really important to note, and I think, we don't have this conversation enough in our community. The dollar is a debt instrument. Okay. And so if you want more dollars printed, you understand that you also create more responsibility, and it has to come from somewhere. Unless we're going to continue to kick the can down the road and put it on our grandchildren and our grandchildren's children. You have to begin to stop the bleeding from somewhere and share the burden. What's interesting is I've never heard it articulated the way that you did. You said, look, it's essentially patriotic. So if you love your country so much, protect it and protect those that are inside of it by making sure that we have the resources. That's a reasonable request.
Let's make it like real practical. There's going to be another COVID relief bill next year. We know it's happening. Like we cannot survive our city, state governments without it. Our hospitals need it, our schools need it, our businesses need it. How do you pay for that?
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I just don't understand how we try to have these partial conversations, which real talk are selfish ones. Like we're saying, well, I don't want to pay more. Well, then who does?
Right.
I don't know of anyone who's like, man, I can't wait to pay more in taxes just because. You're doing it so that you can help people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about this, and I assess this from, again, a local government perspective, as a local elected myself. City and state governments, we can't defer and hope we'll pay things down the line. We got to balance our budgets.
Right.
So when we can't move forward on the programs you care about, when the local nonprofits on the block can't get their funding, when the My Brother's Keeper programs can't be instituted, when your local hospitals can't get the support that they need, when the students don't have the tablets that they need because we don't have enough money because of lack of revenue, and we're not getting it from the feds, then again, help me to understand. So 50, ICE, everybody, rock with us and let's have a conversation on how we do this better, rather than saying, yeah, I'm gonna sit on the sidelines and make my money.
Yeah, no, that's a real request. And Mike, I like how you broke it down. Building back better requires everybody. No one can escape. If we all could not escape COVID and the impact, then surely we should not escape the responsibility of chipping in to build it back and make it better for all of us. One of the things that I always wanted to focus on was making sure that every voice was heard in every election. I think that's crucial because so many on the block talk about the fact that they're not heard, whether it's from their local or their state, or whether it's from the federal conversation as we talk about national elections. And so this is no dig to our beautiful Black sisters, but I wanted to have a brother to brother conversation, especially in this election, because Black men polling all the way from LA back here to Philadelphia, where we are right now. Some Black men on the block are literally saying, look, every time we start a movement, every time there's a situation that needs to be addressed for Black men in America, the mission gets co-opted, the narrative gets spun, and it goes in a different direction to another group. Speak to us directly, talk to us directly, and provide for us directly. And so I wanted to bring in this brother to brother segment. Now, I wish, Mike, I had some graphics for this. We'll do that maybe at another time. But I want to bring in none other than Pastor Khalil Rogers, who's right here in Philadelphia. He is the senior pastor of Peniel Baptist Church, a longtime community leader, a brother that I not only have seen what God has done in his life, but I know that his commitment to the country and to the community are equal. And he ensures that Black and brown are in the conversation and in the impact circle. Welcome, Khalil.
Thank you, Malik. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So this, we're turning off all the formalities on this one. This literally is a barbershop dialogue. Khalil, you're on the block, you're in the street, you know what the hood is saying, you know what the people are crying for, the messages that aren't getting answered by direct mail. No matter how many motorcades come past by the local electeds, you know, the blanket statements are not answering the questions. Black men specifically have real questions that they want to hear answers from both sides.
Absolutely.
Mike Gray, the vice chair of the DNC, has taken the time to say, I'm here, I'm ready to answer the questions and really talk shop. And so, Khalil, talk about what the community is saying and speak to Mike about some of the needs.
So, Mike, thank you so much for taking this time. Just quite frankly, and Malik and I were kind of chatting before, when you look at the landscape of the Democratic Party, obviously, I mean, ever since I was a kid, I'm 41 years old, it appears that Black women have always been kind of like the train that drives it, in a sense. But quite frankly, many Black men don't feel like they have a place in the Democratic Party. Just from, since we're talking, you know, barbershop talk, if you sit in a barbershop, if you sit on the block, you know, and just talk to specifically young Black men, I would say anywhere from ages to 18 to 35, somewhere around there, where does that fit? So my question for you is, what specifically, and I'm not asking you to speak for the party as a whole, but what specifically is the Biden administration doing to target African-American men, and more specifically, young African-American men?
So that's real. So I'm actually.
Hey, Mike, we it's hard for us to hear you. Check your microphone.
Hope you can hear me now.
A little better. Good.
A little better, yeah.
Say that I'm doing this from Florida right now.
We got you. Now you sound really good there.
And I came on down because I was invited by the incoming Senator Chevron Jones to Miami for an event called Cut to the Chase. And specifically, it was at a local barbershop, socially distanced conversation, just brothers, for exactly what you're saying, Phil. And one of the questions was, as a young Black man, they didn't feel, that person, that the party welcomed them. So first I said, we need to do a better job as Democrats communicating how the things we have done have actually helped young brothers like that young brother. We treated this like theoretical exercise, and we make the conversations around presidential elections, but we're not talking to them about how that local prosecutor can impact criminal justice. We're not talking to them about how that mayor and city council member impacts what's happening on your block. We're not talking about how the legislator can impact education, so that they can say, okay, well, those things matter. But then the second piece, and I've actually had this conversation several times the last few days, is we have not done a good job of educating about the opportunities of what happened when you rock with the party. It's this distinct entity that seems vague. Well, what is a party? What do y'all do? It feels like y'all just have meetings, as opposed to, no, we want you in this conversation so that we can write the platform and the agenda to counter a platinum plan that the other side's talking about. We want you at the table so we can start mapping out what the vision can look like for Black and brown business. We want you at the table so when we're talking through minority women business contracts, you can give us guidance on new ways to do it. But it's not how it used to be done in the past. And so we need to, and we will, and I'm now going into the core of your question, communicate, here's what happens when brothers are a part of what we're building. Young brothers especially, within the party. And as the first Black man elected in leadership of the DNC since Ron Brown, I recognize that responsibility immensely. You know, the organizing core effort that we did to train young Black and brown men and women across this country are the organizers right now going everywhere who otherwise would not have learned that opportunity. And I had that opportunity when Obama did that to me in 2006. Now, to the policy part of the question, this is when we have to be very succinct and clear of saying not only is there a choice and a contrast between Trump and Biden, but here's what can happen in a Biden-Harris administration. And instead of starting the conversation, Khalil, I think this is real, of us telling them all the different talking points, we should start asking them, what do you care about first, and then respond then. So if that young brother is like, yo, I want to talk to you about my student loans. All right, well, you know, Biden is saying if he gets elected, student loan forgiveness would happen if you serve in your communities. Okay. Now, I'm a local entrepreneur. I'm trying to figure out how I can make my hustle happen on the block. All right. Well, Minority Business Development Agency and SBA can give you access to contract. Okay. All right. I didn't know it. Yo, I got to take care of my little brother and little sister because my mom's got to work 2-3 jobs. It's hard what's happening right. Absolutely. That's the reason why we got to address what's going on with suspensions in schools and retentions, but also make sure there's more child care opportunities. And so I think the core of this is we got to make politics sexy again. And we got to make policy practical again. And if we did both of those two things, then that young brother's going to be like, you know what? I might listen to y'all. I might rock with y'all because I can actually understand it. This is the last piece I'll say on this, but for now, it's easy for someone to understand instant gratification for buying a sneaker, going to the club, going to a restaurant, going to the barbershop, right? Instant gratification. It's hard for us to say, this is what happens when you build a party. And what I have started to communicate to some of these young brothers is, hey, do you want to go to school, graduate from school, go live a life? They're like, yeah. Okay. Well, how many years would it take usually if you're in high school, college? Of like 4. I was like, so I say, if I elect the president for 4 years and I build and I can have something better on the other side, isn't that what I want to? And then you start seeing like, okay, I can see that, right? So making it practical for them is what we have to do. And that's what the Biden-Harris administration will do when we win this thing.
Gotcha. Your thought? Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, he Mike hit on a lot, and I think that's what's needed. A lot of times is just the education. I mean, just speaking from as a Black man, the respect level, right, to even be included and not just kind of an afterthought. And you know, that feeling of not feeling politically homeless, to be honest. You had mentioned the Lift Every Voice plan, which in my opinion is very comprehensive. It's probably the most comprehensive Black agenda that I've seen presented by any politician since the Freedmen's Bureau during, you know, the Civil War era. Definitely compared to, you know, Trump's plan, which was really a memo, you know, 2-page memo versus 22 pages.
Yeah, it was bullet points is what it really was.
It didn't really explain nothing. So with the Lift Every Voice plan, which I have analyzed, I've read, sent it out to so many people for them to read it and digest it. If Vice President Biden and Senator Kamala Harris is the winning ticket, what will then President and Vice President Kamala Harris do to ensure that that plan is implemented within the first term? Because I mean, we understand that, you know, both chambers of Congress will have to be, you know, on board with a lot of that stuff. I mean, you know, the president isn't a dictator. He can't just, you know, snap his finger and stuff happens. So what will President Biden and Vice President Harris do to work with both chambers of Congress to ensure that that gets done within the first term?
Well, first, I think, you know, we want to make sure, you know, Kamala, we always want to say her name, right? So Senator Kamala Harris, right? I always tell people, Kamala, right? That's the best way to think about it when we're doing it there. And when we talk about the base of the party, we want to make sure our sisters get that love right there, right? When we engage here, we're going to have the House. I think that's pretty clear. We're going to have a Democratic House. We'll probably expand the majority of the House. And, you know, Malik and Khalil, I think it's very likely by the day that we might have a Democratic Senate. You know, I think Colorado and Arizona seem to be pretty much locked at this point, unless something absolutely surprising happens. Making great progress in North Carolina. Jamie Harrison is tied in South Carolina, which is just amazing to watch. Warnock is up in Georgia, also up in Georgia. And I think I'm starting there to your question, because I think it's important. Having a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House with a Democratic presidency makes a lot of these things much easier to implement, because sometimes we forget. One of the reasons we were able to make some things happen in the Obama administration is that we had 2 years of that trifecta. Right. And so in terms of implementation, survival mode makes you move faster than you normally would. And when we talk about that first 100 days, there's some folks that won't make it if these bills don't get signed and implemented and money out the door in 100 days.
Yeah.
And I really think that we are approaching it with that kind of mindset. And I'm willing to say this. As the person who directed African-American outreach for President Obama, who ran coalition outreach in Iowa, who ran minority women business programs in the White House, the Biden racial equity plan is the boldest plan I have ever seen from a politician for Black folk. Period. And when you have that level of clarity and specificity, it leads to easy accountability to it. Because now you can tell people, elect me to do this. Let's move on this. Let's get this out the door. Not only will we need to get dollars out the door, get the economy going to reimagine everything we possibly can, but then it becomes much easier for that later conversation. And what do I mean by that? I said to people in 2012, Barack Obama said to you in 2008, he was going to get you 2 things. He was going to end the war and get you health care. And everything else on top of that is gravy. Now you can decide to re-elect the man who did what he told you he was going to do, or going to make this change. And it becomes easy because he's like, okay, this is what they're going to do. I would want to rock with the person who has a very clear plan, and then let's hold them accountable for that implementation. Because to answer your question, if we hold them accountable and we have the plan get executed, it would lead to transformational wealth creation, transformational reimagination of our schools, transformational opportunity for infrastructure, saving of our folks when it comes to healthcare. So the implementation will lead to survival, will lead to thrive. And I really do believe this fundamentally. Sometimes it's the simple lines that matter most. Build Back Better is real. And I think having the right team around is important. So, hopefully the leadership that our next president and vice president select serving the administration, that's where that accountability continues, because it's not just what happens on the field, but it's having the leadership who made these to ensure the right thing.
I think you're spot on with that. And I think, this conversation is one that's absolutely necessary. I love the fact that you are in Florida right now with the Cut to the Chase event. First of all, that's a hot title. Tell them brothers, as a former promoter, I'm saying that title is right on the money. And I appreciate the fact that you, as a leader, a Black man, in the DNC are taking the time out to have real conversations on the ground. I think that's so important, because many times as we elevate, we like to stay in the clouds and have the 30,000 foot conversations. But I think, that expertise, that insight, that viewpoint, you're able to come down to the ground and say, look, I've been to the mountaintop, or at least I see the mountaintop and I know in which direction we need to travel as a people. And it's these kind of communications and conversations that's going to make the difference. Pastor Khalil Rogers, I appreciate you, brother, for the leader that you are, the man that you are, and all that you do for our community.
Man, I appreciate you too, brother. Thank you so much for having me. Brother Mike, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
There you go.
Bless you, Tom. Bless you.
And to you, Mike Blake, New York State Assemblyman and Vice Chair of the DNC. My brother, you are an absolute leader, not just in the party, but in our community. We honor and appreciate you as well. And we always consider it a great time, man, when you stop past Hart City.
Always comes back to Hart City any day, all day. And I'm going to tease this out.
Yeah.
I want people to be on the lookout. It should be public now. When I am co-hosting a concert, virtual concert that will be airing on Sunday the 25th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, focusing on raising money for Black causes, get out and vote, and a few names that you might have heard before: Patty LaBelle, Chaka Khan, Herbie Hancock, Kate Six, just a few folks you might have heard of.
Oh yeah.
I want you to go check out Control.
Hey, listen, and I'm holding you to the oxtails, brother. In our last interview, you talked about oxtails. Listen, you on the hook. I'm making that part of your Biden-Harris plan, brother. Oxtails is right on the bottom.
Man, that would have been one of my questions. I came down here at my sister's house, brother-in-law's house. First thing that happened, I had oxtail as soon as I hit the door. So we're gonna make this happen somehow in this COVID era of oxtail, rice, and peas.
Let's do it. To both of you, I appreciate it. I'm excited to have with us Ashley Allison. She is the National Coalition's director for the Biden-Harris campaign. Her work is extensive, not just inside of the inside circle, as many of us talk about, but I want you to hear from her directly what's happening on the ground, the fact and the truth about what the Biden-Harris plan will be for Black America, and to talk about the things that we need to know going into this last and most important part of the election cycle. It's crucial for us to know the facts. Make your decisions based on fact, not fiction. Allison, thank you so much for joining us at Hart City. Welcome home.
Thank you for having me, Malik.
So let's go into this. It is an absolute historic thing for Senator Kamala Harris to be elected as the nominee for vice president. And she is queued right now, as the polls are leaning, for a Biden-Harris administration. Social media has gone off the rails. All of the social media PhDs have dealt with everything from the contract for Black America with Ice Cube to 50 Cent's latest comments around the tax plan. I want to dig into some of that. Mike Blake touched on a little bit of that as well. But from your perspective, most recently, 50 Cent just said, look, 62% in a tax hit for New Yorkers. I'm out. I'm going with Trump. Let's dispel the myth and get to the facts. 62%, is that real for those that are 400% or more?
So first, again, thank you for having me. I believe anyone can have their opinion on who they want to support. I obviously support Biden-Harris, and I am encouraging other people to support the Biden-Harris ticket. But your support should be rooted in facts and what actually will happen to improve your quality of life as an individual. So let me be very clear, for Black folks, for white folks, for brown folks, and everyone in between, if you make less than $400,000 a year, and I'm gonna say, I'll put my financial business, that's me. I make less than $400,000 a year, and most people in this country do. Joe Biden is not gonna raise your taxes. And so you will be good. But what he will do is the tax plan that Donald Trump pushed to help the rich, the wealthy, the 1% that he falls into, they are going to be taxed. But the majority of folks, including Black people who, when you make less than $400,000 a year, you are going to be fine. Joe Biden is going to look out for you. And because of that, that is just one of many reasons. And I'm happy to talk about more, but that's just one of many reasons why Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are for the people, for us, for Black folks.
You have gone around the country and are continuously moving throughout the electorate, talking about, to your point, the many reasons why you feel that the Biden-Harris campaign is the absolute choice at a time like this. Let's dig into them. I literally want to give you the opportunity to talk about the things that you believe are most important, specifically to Black America at such a crucial time in our journey here in this country.
So I'm a Black woman from Youngstown, Ohio. And when I think about, my family still lives there. I now live in Washington, D.C. When I think about my personal lived experience, when I think about my cousin and my family, I think about what they're going through in this moment. I have been in my house, and many of you have too, for 7 months. Yeah. Not being able to go to a restaurant, which is a privilege. My sister is a teacher. She's been teaching her students remotely. For the people who have children, y'all been stuck in your house with your kids. And you know why? It's not because Donald Trump created COVID-19 or the coronavirus. It's because his failed leadership has prevented us from having a pathway out. I don't want to be in my house this time next year if Donald Trump is reelected. But that's what the case is right now. He has a doctor that is saying herd immunity, which is a false narrative on how we can stop this pandemic. He has a doctor right now silencing Dr. Fauci, who is the expert here, saying herd immunity is the way. You know who is going to die because of shenanigans like herd immunity? Black people, brown people, poor people. And Donald Trump is playing with our lives. That's just on the pandemic, let alone healthcare. He is currently suing to end Obamacare, the ACA. And if that is ended, people who had pre-existing conditions before Obamacare would be removed from their health insurance, but also the 7 million plus people who now have been exposed and has contracted COVID-19 would also be removed from the ACA. This is literally an election about life and death. Our country is so racially divided, and a lot of it is not, Donald Trump didn't start racism, but he helps perpetuate it. He spews hate, he spews negativity, and he is only looking out for himself and a small percentage of folks. So I understand when people get jaded by the system. I understand how frustrating it is to turn on the television and see the bodies of Black and brown people slain in the streets. It is frustrating, but I will tell you, it will only get worse under a second term for Donald Trump. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a plan to get us back on track, and not just get us back on track for where we were in 2016. I worked in the Obama administration, and we got a lot accomplished in those 8 years. But they talk about building back better because they want to not just go back to where we were, they want to make your life better.
So, it's interesting, that building back better term. We heard that from Michael Blake as well, and it's clear that that is a focus of the Biden-Harris campaign. For many who are now paying attention to the Lift Every Voice agenda for Black America, obviously the conversations around Cube and Sean Combs and 50 Cent have highlighted this narrative, but it's been on the website for some time for people to view. Question, it becomes a Biden-Harris presidency, administration, inside of this current split in the chambers, right? So it is possible that we may maintain a Republican-led Senate and have more impact, but still a democratically led House. We saw President Obama push extremely hard for ACA in those first 2 years. Would we see the same level of commitment from Senator Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden if they were elected to push to make sure that Lift Every Voice really became a reality for Black America in the first 2 years?
100%, you would see a commitment from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to push not just the Lift Every Voice platform, but our Build Back Better, which has a caregiving economy that really impacts women of color and women in general, that would really push on our racial equity policy, on our HBCU policy. But you mentioned a really good point, and that is, it's not just about going and voting at the top of the ticket. Too often, we only talk about elections in every 4 years. And so, yes, You need to go, you need to get your vote by mail, your absentee ballot, you need to go vote in early, or you need to go vote on election day, because there are many options on how you can vote this election cycle. But not only do you need to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because they have a plan, you need to vote for your senator. There's a chance to flip the Senate so that we wouldn't have this gridlock in Washington that is just solely based on partisanship. Right now, there is literally a bill to give relief to the 30 million people who are currently unemployed because of this pandemic, sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk, and he's done nothing for months. Nothing. That is not leadership. That is playing games with people's lives. That is like preventing a child, putting food in a child's mouth, keeping a roof over a family's head. That is not the type of leadership we want. We can flip the Senate, we can win the White House, and we can keep the House, and then we can elect mayors and city council members and governors across this country that fundamentally believe that life doesn't have to be this way. We can reunite as a country, and we can improve the quality of people's lives.
I think you bring up some really important points. In many ways, one could argue that the Obama administration was largely hampered by a tremendous vote in the presidential election, but many forgot how to move legislation through its full process, which requires us being actively engaged in midterms and making sure that down the ticket we were paying attention to those who could carry the ball and run with the agenda. You served as deputy director inside of the Obama administration. To those undecideds who are being told that Joe Biden is just an extension of the Obama administration, and they bring up challenging points around what many may have felt that occurred in the Obama administration. What are your thoughts or statements to those undecideds who are feeling or potentially believing that Biden is just a continuation? Is he his own man?
You know, Joe Biden is humbled and honored at the opportunity to serve as vice president under Barack Obama. It was one of the greatest privileges he talks about in his career. And yet, he also is running to be president of the United States in 2020. We are in a totally different world. There's no way we can compare 2016 to 2020. And Joe Biden is his own man. Kamala Harris is her own woman, and they will come into the White House and govern for the time of now. The leadership that Obama and Biden expressed and showed this country for those 8 years was phenomenal, and just a testament to what type of leader Joe Biden will be. One thing that people don't always know is that when Ebola hit in the second term, Joe Biden was tasked by the president to lead the charge to stop Ebola from coming to our shores and to help Liberia from it spreading and ravaging that country. He did it with grace, with dignity. He respected the humanity of the Black bodies in Africa that were being killed by this disease, and he prevented it from ravaging our country. He will bring that experience, but he also is his own man and has a vision for what this country needs in this very moment.
For our Black women who are listening, Michael Blake spoke to our brothers and gave them some very frank information and things that they needed to digest as it relates to making decisions around this election. What are your words from your heart to theirs, to Black women who are listening now about this election, why it matters, why it's so important for us to show up and show up?
Well, you know, Black women, we always show up and show up.
Somehow I knew we were going to go there. I'm with you, Ashley. I'm with you.
But we don't, this campaign, myself, we don't take the Black woman or the Black male vote for granted. I just want you, for those who are watching and listening, how many of you own your own home? How many of you have student loan debt? How many of you pay exorbitant amounts of money for childcare? That's the life of a Black woman. Someone who does everything right and still just can't get a break. Well, under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, if you're a first-time homeowner, you get a $15,000 tax credit. for that down payment. Because a lot of people can't buy a home because they don't have like a slush fund or a trust fund available like Donald Trump has had his whole life. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will give you $15,000 to do that. If you make $125,000 left, you could get a free college education. The student loan debt that is hanging over my head, I'm working so hard, I've committed my life to public service, but it's like I can't get ahead because of student loan debt. Joe Biden has a plan for caregivers so that you won't have to pay more than 7% of your annual income just so your child can be taken care of and you can go to work. These are real policies. These are not, DC politics and politicians just pandering to you just to get power. These are policies that will actually improve the quality of your life. They are policies that were made for Black women, that were made for Black men. And the thing that is most important about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is, God willing, they went on November 3rd and they're inaugurated on January 20th, but you can hold them accountable. And you can ask them for more, and they will listen to you, because the one thing they always say is that they want everyone to have a seat at the table. And they won't just be a president for the Democrats or the Republicans, they'll be a president for this entire country. So I fundamentally believe we deserve better. I think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is the first step. And I hope you agree with me and you will go and you will go vote. You will vote early, you will vote by mail, you will vote on election day, you will tell every single person to go vote, and you will vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
So to our beautiful Black women, you were encouraged by Ashley to continue the great work. Brothers, you have been charged to step up and join Black women around the nation and speaking up and speaking out about what needs to happen. If you do not vote, you have no voice. It is so important. That is the beginning step to make your voice heard. This election, November 3rd, is exactly the time to do just that. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today on Heart City. We appreciate you and the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, it's so important that we pay attention to this information. We know what's happening in the space. I'm glad to have Ashley and Michael speak to you from the Democratic side. Next week, we're going to have the RNC in the room. They're going to break down their platform, their positions, what they believe is their plan and strategy for African Americans. They will talk about what they feel are their accomplishments, and more importantly, what work they believe they will get done in the next term. This is not, for us at Heart City, a partisan issue. It's to make sure that you have every piece of information from every side. We do not play politics like the other channels that you may watch. We want to make sure that every side has equal representation so that you can judge the performance of those that are in power and make the decisions on whether or not you want to keep them there or to employ a new team. I'm thankful for everyone who has sent us comments, concerns, questions, those who want to learn more and have become more engaged because of the program. We honor you. We love you. We appreciate you. That's what this was all about. It's negotiation time. We're not playing subservient anymore to anybody's agenda. It's our agenda, or it's no agenda at all. That starts with the knowledge and information that you get right here. I'm going to our Black History fact. On the other side, Tim Green, NBA referee, all-star. He's one of my great friends. I love him to death. He'll share some time with you about his experience in the bubble. Now, our Black History fact of the week. Why do we do Black History every week? Because we make Black History every day. You don't believe me? Just pick up your smartphone, put it on selfie mode, and take a look at your fine self. You are truly living Black history. The focal point of this week's Black History fact is Andrew Cheston Jackson.
Dr. Andrew Cheston Jackson, christened the most able Negro surgeon in America by the Mayo brothers of Mayo Clinic fame, treated patients of all races. The most prominent Tulsan killed in the riot was Dr. Jackson, a 42-year-old surgeon living at 523 North Detroit Avenue. According to Jackson's white neighbor, former police commissioner and retired Judge John Oliphant, Dr. Jackson had raised his hands to surrender to a group of whites when two of them shot Dr. Jackson dead in what Oliphant called cold-blooded murder. Dr. Jackson lived on what was one of the most exclusive blocks in all of Greenwood. His neighbors included Booker T. Washington High School principal E.W. Woods, Tulsa Star publisher A.J. Smitherman, and physician R.T. Bridgewater. Dr. Jackson created some of the most innovative surgical tools that are still being used today, post-modifications and surgical and technological advancements. Surgical students the world over have been influenced by this great surgeon's contribution to the medical community. Dr. Jackson died tragically in the 1921 Tulsa race riot, the worst of the so-called race riots in early 20th century America. Today's Black History Fact is brought to you by PK Financial Group. Please visit them at pkfinancialgrp.com and share this Black History Fact with those you love.
Our song of the week is none other than Just a Cloud Away. We need some upbeat energy in the space. Make sure you check out Pharrell and that great record. I'm going to a break. On the other side, Tim Green, WNBA ref, will be with us. You want to hear from this brother and all the great stories, advice, and expertise that he has around the game, the industry of officiating, and more importantly, how you can get young people involved in the game. It's important for us to start early. It is a career unlike any other. Everybody's not going to be an NBA athlete. Everyone is not going to make it to the top of the playing side. However, there are far more ways to get close to the game, to be engaged in the game, and be a crucial part of the game. You'll hear from Tim. On the other side, we're going to a break. You're watching Heart City TV. We are back as promised. My big brother in the space, Tim Green, is with us today. I am excited personally to have him on this side of the water and the golf course. I enjoy playing the links with this brother and gaining experience from him, not just on the golf course, but also in life. The amazing experiences that he has are life-changing. They're game-changing, pun intended. Tim, it's great to have you with us, brother, on Heart City. Welcome home.
How you doing, brother?
Look, I'm good. I'm trying to be like you and hit these links, man.
Hey, man, I got to get it in when I can. You know that, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So congratulations to you, first and foremost, being at the level that you have accomplished in the industry is no small feat. We honor you, we love you, and appreciate that. And you are paving the way for many minority officials to move not only in your direction, but even to move further in the space. And that's absolutely crucial. Talk about not just how you got here, because we've talked about in other episodes of that story, but why it's so important for minorities to begin to get more involved in the officiating side of the sport, not just the playing side.
Well, Malik, as we know that as far as it comes to players and coach, well, let's talk about players. Majority of players are majority black. Mm-hmm. So as a player as yourself, you played in college. It's always a great feeling to see black coaches, black referees, someone you can talk to, you can actually, you feel that you can conversate with. And I think for years and years, it was a thing of us as players, we really didn't have the opportunity or didn't see the same color skin as us, someone that we could relate to on that side. Yeah. And at times it felt like it was a wall there and a barrier. So I think it's important that we all can have blacks on all aspects of the game, no matter what sport it is. football, basketball, soccer, whatever it is, it needs to be there.
And what's interesting, most like to come at a referee or an official and say, "Hey, you don't know what I'm going through as a player. You don't understand the rigors on my body. I'm the guy that's out here night after night, in the box and trying to work around the screens." But truth is, officials never get a timeout. There's never a point where you are, able to sit down and talk to a coach or get 15 minutes or 5 minutes of rest and go back on the floor. Game time is every minute for you. Talk about the rigorous nature of being an official, and for those who are aspiring to go into the industry, what it takes to be an active, responsive, and effective official on the floor.
Well, I mean, during off seasons, not only do I train my body, but I have to train my mind. So I train my body, of course, as far as like making sure my cardio is great, as far as being able to keep up with the pace of a game. But on the mental side of things, I practice communication with coaches, players. I literally, during time, I could just be walking up and down the street or just shopping or something with the family. I would be practicing without them even knowing. Like I would practice conversations that would come about with coaches or players to where it becomes second nature with me.
That's really deep. I have not practiced in that vein in the industry, and I believe, quite frankly, that that's something that I should do. No different than what we do on the comm side and the communication side. One of the things that I think is also important to note is I remember the first time I came to you and I said, "Hey, I want to get into this thing. I have the bug. I've had some experiences, but I want to dig into it at a deeper level." Yes, you put me in a very high-paced situation. Sixers draft season. Everybody from Ben Simmons to Jaylen Brown, before they ever signed, I was a fish out of water. I'm like, Tim, help me understand. The game is flying. But even after that, you said, look, now that you've seen what the top level of officiating looks like, here's a thumb drive with gigs of plays.
Yep.
Go home, study the plays, just watch them. Get used to seeing what traveling looks like. Get used to seeing what an illegal screen looks like. I need you to know this stuff so that you don't have early whistle. You're right on time, with your calls. Talk about why it's so important, not just in the sport, but life, to get enough reps so that you're able to make the right call when it counts.
So I truly believe you really could never get enough. Well, you can get enough reps. We're talking about 20 years of running them down the court and refereeing games. But be honest, most of my training comes from video. So I literally keep a library of, like, as you discussed, travels, moving screens, plays to the basket, block charges. I have a library of thousands of plays where if I train my mind to watch these plays over and over, it becomes second nature. Almost not actually anticipating it, but as it's happening, it's almost like I'm sure, I hope a lot of people haven't been. If you have been in a car accident, it literally seems like it's going do 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 do.
Super
And
slow
as
mo.
it happens, yes. So what's happening, it helps you with your judgment a lot. But we have principles that we stick with when we make decisions. But if you do that training, that video training is a great thing for us.
Absolutely. And so you've taken those years of training, not just what occurred in the Navy during your time there, but also throughout all the years of work on the floor, and you found yourself in the bubble. Many folk focused on the NBA and what was occurring on the floor there, but there were tons of games happening in the WNBA as well in the bubble. Talk about your experience in the bubble. What was it like being down there day in, day out with some of the best athletes in the world?
Well, I'll be honest, starting Malik, no one knew what we were going to walk into, to be honest. We could sit there and negotiate certain things we needed to feel protected as far as medically, uh, as far as financial, but you never really knew what you were walking into till you got there. And once we got there, I have to applaud the commissioner, the WNBA, and commissioner of the NBA. They literally everything we needed. They made sure we felt secure being there on a daily basis. When it came to testing, food, lodging, all those things. I mean, everything was top shelf, Malik.
Wow. I can't even imagine. You're there in a once in a lifetime experience, obviously the top players around the world. But then at the same time, you're trying to navigate health. You're trying to make sure that you stay healthy, because obviously if you contract COVID, you're out the bubble. You're out of the opportunity that exists. What was the energy like with, the players? I mean, many times individuals get to play.
Yep.
They experience that city, and then they're on the road. They're on a plane or bus, whatever the case may be. Now you're literally placing the entire basketball association in one space. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of stuff we're probably not going to mention, but what was the energy like overall being there?
Well, Malik, honestly, it was weird at first. Even before game started, you were around the players eating. The level, I mean, the atmosphere was pretty laid back at first, but once the game started, revving up, teams winning, teams losing, literally sitting in the same dining hall eating together. Like a great one was I had Las Vegas. Las Vegas lost, and I was literally sitting right across from Bill Laimbeer, the head coach of Las Vegas, and they just lost a last second game.
Wow.
Lily had to eat breakfast. Bill Laimbeer came up to me and said, "Tim, is all good." Because he felt tension.
He felt the energy. Yeah.
He felt the energy. And then the next night I had a tight game. Las Vegas lost to LA lost to Seattle. And it was a last second shot, a 3D loss. And Derek Fisher was I saw him the next morning as I went down to take my COVID test. And he wouldn't even look me in my eyes. So, certain coaches act a certain way, of course.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So how does one get into the industry? I mean, very, very few times will we come across an individual in the space that's at the level that you are, willing to share the wisdom and expertise that you do. And I can attest to that from the moment that I approached you and said, look, Tim, I'm feeling this. You gave the stair steps of how to get to the next levels. Share with those who are listening right now going, you know what, I never thought about officiating, but I always wanted to be on the floor. I always had a good eye and feel for the game. How would I do that? Talk to them and give them just general information of how to get involved.
Okay, so on the high school level, in our area, they have a thing called PIAA, which you can go to their website and get those things going. As far as that, getting your point of contacts. To be honest, Malik, just like anything else in this world, is all about opportunity, being in right place, right time, and on top of that, having talent. For me personally, I can watch someone for 30 minutes and tell if someone has it or not. For me, I mean, you just have to have a feel for what's going on. Like, let's talk about our time on the court with the Sixers.
Yeah.
I mean, your first time being on the court, and you're on the court with Embiid, Ben Simmons, and it's like you're a fish out of water, of course. But thing is, it's like you just shy away from it. That's a great attribute to have starting with. If you're not shying away from it, now I can put you where I need to put you at,
Understood. And I think that's really important, not just in the sport, but also in life, not shying away from the challenge. You may not have all the tools, but you also have leaders that you're willing to pay attention to, advisors that you're willing to hear their advice, and put ego out the way and go, hey, let me learn so that I know how to slay this dragon and how to come, correct. Tim, COVID impacted the nation, the world.
Yes.
one of the things that we don't talk about is the sports world, just how much it really impacted. Yes, we finally got a season off on both sides, WNBA and NBA. Nonetheless, I mean, the game has changed forever. We have digital screens now. People can attend the game, from literally a computer link. I don't think that the NBA will be the same, or the WNBA will be the same. What do you see as the future of the game and where it's going in a post-COVID climate?
So Malik, if you don't mind, can I go pre-COVID for a little bit for you? So I'll share a little
Absolutely.
story too. So I work NCAA basketball, and I literally pre-COVID, I was walking on the court to work a MEAC game. I work in the MEAC. I always make sure I give back. And I was literally about to walk on the court for the semifinals of a MEAC tournament game, and they canceled it. So can you imagine getting ready to walk on the court? They're saying we're canceling it because of COVID. And then at that point, everything shut down. So at that point, I literally had to refocus and keep myself focused on. I knew the WNBA was coming, and to be honest, I didn't know how to keep myself focused, but I had to find a pack of guys to be able to keep myself focused, and we trained every day to get myself to the point to be ready for our season, because I knew it was going to happen at the drop of a dime, because they didn't know when it was going to start either. So once we started and we got there, in my humble opinion, I really believe that as far as going forward, this will be minimal attendance as far as fans. We take a lot of things. We use a lot of tools to keep people safe as far as our whistles. We have this little whistle pack that we put on our whistle, which catches all our spit from when we blow our whistle. Hand sanitizer on every level. The table has like plexiglass up to make sure we can't communicate and spread the disease if it is there. And then secondly, we would use a headset to talk. Literally, it felt like we were in space, like if you were in a shuttle, and we would communicate with the table. So going forward, I think those are some things we'll continue to do. Okay. But as everyone, one day I hope it gets back to somewhere where it was normalcy.
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain energy that is lost. Obviously, we want to make sure that everyone is healthy and that we're minimizing the ability to spread anything. But there is some energy that is lost. And athletes are even playing different, right? Because I want to go in the lane, but I also want to make sure I don't contract something as well. So maybe I'll take this 15-footer. That I might not have normally have taken. And so everybody's adjusting to the space. As we kind of close this interview, there are those who came before you. I'll never forget hearing the story of the one who came to you and said, "Tim, you got it. It's time. Invest in this. You're going to go places." Whether you saw it or not at that moment, you listened enough.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't
but he kept pressing, and he saw something in you, and he invested. Now you're in the space. You're now our Yoda. You're now the Jedi, Knight, ready to train others, and have been training countless others to get to this space. What level of motivation, or what from your heart to those that are listening right now, what message of motivation would you give to those that are not just inspiring to move up in the sport, but aspiring to move up in life?
I would say one thing, Malik, is that if you're gonna go to someone and ask them to train you and help you reach the best level you can reach, just don't come half-heartedly. Don't jump in, jump out. Don't just stick one foot in the pool. Jump all in. Let that person know you mean it. And even when that person may be busy or something, just keep letting them know, I'm there, I'm here. I need that knowledge you got. I need to get as far as I can, and just stay with it.
That's really important. To stay focused, stay active in that relationship, and more importantly, let them know that you're committed to moving down the line. Tim, look, man, I know the schedule is busy. I know you've got a little opportunity to relax now that the season is kind of slowed up a little bit, but now you're preparing for other stuff, and so I always honor the opportunity to share with you, brother. I love you, man to man. I need you to know that. I honor you, and I appreciate not only our friendship, but what you do for the community and for the sport.
I love you too, brother. I appreciate the time. Keep doing what you're doing, man, and you just don't know how much you do for people, brother. Just keep plugging.
I appreciate it. So you have heard from my big brother, Tim Green. I love that brother and what he does for the community, what he does for the sport as well. I think it's really important that we make sure that minorities understand you can get in the game, and you can do it quite early, actually. Don't wait till you're beyond your playing days to decide that you want to officiate and get involved. The wheels are a little different at that space. Get involved and talk to our young people now, starting at 17 or 18. Get them involved in refereeing and officiating. You will be surprised how far they can go because of their youth, their willingness to learn the game. By 24, 25, they may be at the top of the high school space, beginning to enter into the college space. By 29, 30, they may be prepared to be at the top of the college space, looking at the professional space. By 35, they're on the floor at the NBA, WNBA level, and making not only great money, but also making a difference. You've heard from Michael Blake and Ashley Allison as well. They talked about, again, the Biden-Harris agenda. What's there in it for us? If we're going to lift every voice, are we going to hit all the right notes? What song are we singing exactly? And how are we going to make sure that those who rely on us can get what they need from us, because we have the resources and tools that we probably should have had over the last few decades. They broke down their strategy on how they're going to do it. Next week, you're going to hear from the RNC, the Republican National Convention, what their plans are and how they have decided that they're going to bring resources to the community. I need you to share this show. Again, I keep saying this, it's not about us, it's about you. I need you to have all the information so that you can make the difference, be the leader that we know you are in our community, and be able to separate the fact from the fiction. I love each and every one of you. I'm thankful for all that you do, not just for us, but all that you do for the community as well. You can find us on our YouTube channel. I need you. I need you. I need you. I need you. Yes, I said that 19 times because I need you to subscribe today. Become a part of the Heart City family. Receive updates, notifications, and bonus content. You could do all of that right on our YouTube channel. As always, I need you to feel beautiful, look beautiful, and act beautiful. Why? Because you truly are beautiful. I'm signing off. This is Malik Boyd. Thank you for watching another episode of Heart City TV. I'll see you next week.